Time to light the match for the burning truth with Casey Hendrickson.
And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to The Burning Truth. I am your host, Casey Hendrickson. Do want to thank R&B Car Company. Locations in South Bend, Warsaw, and Fort Wayne. Go to rbcarcompany.com. Let them know I sent you. Again, get a free test drive when you do that. Otherwise, you got to pay. There's still people who say, like, why do you say the free test drive thing? Because, listen, not everybody's very smart, okay? Some people who listen to the show are liberals and they're not bright, and we have to mess with them. It's kind of like man law. Now, with that said, though, some people in the audience, depending on where you're located across the northern part of the state in southwest Michigan, you've got some ice and you've got some snow. And right about now, you're going, damn it, I got to get through winter with this crap car again. You might want to go to RB Car Company and get yourself, real vehicle. So they've got plenty of them available, good prices, great financing, great customer service. Highly, highly recommend you head over to that dealership. All right. I want to go ahead and I want to play you some audio from CNN. There was an interesting post that floated around yesterday. It said Scott Jennings is making CNN watchable again. It's not a lie. I wish they didn't have him with an entire roundtable where the other 5 people collectively maybe have an IQ of 1. I wish that they were actually allowing him to just do a show, because I think that he could actually make CNN a contender. But I want you to listen to Scott Jennings talking about something that we've talked about for many, many years in this program anyway. And I just want to listen to it and see if you think the Democrats or even CNN or the news media or anybody's even going to pick up on this and actually run with it. But I just want you to listen to Scott Jennings here.
I do think we have a crisis of especially young men in this country. And they're, in many ways, disconnected from the rest of their families, disconnected from their communities, disconnected from our political culture, disconnected from our civil culture. And that's a real problem for a society that depends on all of us to be engaged and working together to make it as good of a country and as good of a society as it can be. I think the Democrats in this election made men feel like that the patriarchy is over, boys, and we're going to put you in the back seat for a while and you're just going to have to accept it, without any thought to the ramifications of telling people who are out honestly trying to make a living, provide for their families, be good husbands, be good fathers. When you tell people who are doing their level best that either A, it's not good enough, or B, you're part of the problem, what do you expect? And then finally, as a political tactic, the attempt to put walls on the ticket, and that was going to somehow solve all of the problems that had been built up for years, was ridiculous, because it turns out Walz was the last person that men wanted to hear from. And I remember at the beginning of that whole campaign, when they put him on, I sat right here, and people were like, oh, they got camouflaged hats. They're going to be wearing them in the deer stands this fall. And I think to your point that you just made, that was not, that idea that it was not formulated by a bunch of dudes who actually go deer hunting. It was come up with by a bunch of people who've never met a dude that actually goes deer hunting. But when you try to put that kind of window dressing on a real communications problem or a real relationship problem, it gets exposed immediately.
Sure does. Now, I just uploaded a short. Remember the topic that we did a while back, Morgan? The witches of Reddit trying to cast spells on Donald Trump. Remember that? And there's a whole Reddit thread of witches on Reddit who are, the witches against the patriarchy or something like that? Like their whole point is to take down men, right?
Yeah, it was r/witches. I think it was literally witches against patriarchy.
Okay. Yeah, so it's a bunch of witches, witches on Reddit, who the entire existence of this subreddit is to cast spells, I guess, to destroy the patriarchy, which of course does not exist. And they were very frustrated that none of the spells that they were casting on Donald Trump worked. And then it turned into this, like a fact-finding mission, I guess. Like, why do you think our spells aren't working on him? Like, I keep casting these spells on him and it's not working. And then people coming in and go, well, people are praying for him and And that's like creating this this invisible barrier that we can't penetrate. It's a weak barrier, though. But if it was a weak barrier, Morgan, wouldn't their spells get through?
You'd think.
Wouldn't the powerful witches of Reddit be able to get through the patriarchal, I don't know, what is it? A membrane around Donald Trump?
Force field.
They should have gone over to the Star Trek subreddit and asked how to get through the shields. That's what they should have done. And listen, this is a very easy, simple explanation. Like, we have a crisis of young men in this country, which we 100% do. Still to this day, the most requested podcast that I've done since I've been in this town was the one about young men and pornography and how everybody's getting that story wrong. And I had so many men reach out to me, young guys, even people in their 30s and 40s reaching out to me as well and saying, thank you for doing that. Because there aren't a lot of people who do it. And frankly, some of the people who do bring those issues to the surface aren't exactly the best role models in the world. And so a lot of people don't pay attention to them anyway. We're at a stage where if you're a Democrat and you're running around and wondering why you're losing men, and I've seen this repeatedly play out as the most deranged amongst you are still trying to figure out how it was possible that you lost using one of the worst candidates in all of American political history. A candidate who literally, folks, has never won a single primary vote. Not one. Kamala Harris has never had anybody vote for her in a primary election on a national level, ever. And she was the one that you're going to run with? The person who 2 months before she was the candidate, everybody was saying that Biden needed to dump her and get a decent vice presidential running mate, somebody that everybody would be comfortable with him handing the reins to when he inevitably died 6 months after the next election was over. Well, now they're running around going, I don't understand how men could do this to us. And, you know, you've got, well, frankly, ugly, disgusting land whales still shaving their head, putting masks on their face. These are all things that they've said that they've done. See if I miss anything more. So shaving their head, putting a mask on their face because they want to wear masks again. The blue bracelets, right? The sex, I don't know, what do you call it? Abstination, I guess, from people who are not sleeping with anybody. Anyway, so it's just been quite interesting to kind of watch this all play out. I watched a video the other day. Remember I was joking about this? Like, it's never Trump supporters who leave their women. It's never Trump supporters who break off long-term relationships or marriages or anything like that. I literally watched a whole montage of women who broke up with guys that they were desperately in love with, and they broke up with them because they voted for Trump. And I'm watching one of these women, okay? Young, attractive woman. Most of them aren't. She actually was. She was originally upset that his family supported Trump. And she wasn't sure that she could marry into a family who had supported Trump. And then finally, her boyfriend admitted that he voted for Trump too. And she ended it. And she was sitting there upset because he was amazing. He was the person that she wanted to spend her entire life with. He was the guy that gave her everything that she wanted, was a perfect match for her. But she just couldn't stick around. How do you think that's going to work out for her? Probably not great. She'll get 3 or 4 cats, the wall will come for her, and then it'll be a whole thing about how it's the patriarchy's fault that she can't settle down with somebody. And really, you get back into the history of it. It was her letting go of a good guy who simply had a disagreement with her. I was hearing a story yesterday, had an event that I went to, and you remember the political ad that Kamala ran at the very end of the campaign? Women, you don't have to tell your husband who you vote for. Like, somehow men are keeping their women and they're going to, throat punch them if they vote for Kamala Harris or something like that. You don't have to tell them. You can just go to the booth and it's a whole thing, right? So the last 2 pitches that the Kamala Harris campaign gave to you are young men are addicted to pornography and they're self-gratificating all day and they can't function without that, and they'll protect their access to pornography. And then the other commercial was women are basically living in fear of their husbands, but they can still vote for Kamala Harris in secret without telling their husbands because your vote is not public, and therefore he'll never know. Very interesting pitch. Now, of course, they're really upset that they didn't win white suburban women because they were convinced they were going to win white suburban women. The problem is, as I pointed out, the entire pitch to women was abortion access. And it turns out that white suburban women are not sleeping with the pool boy and they don't need access to abortion on demand. They're married. They have kids. And they go to the grocery store and they're frankly pissed that applesauce is over $7. Tell me what I bought at the store yesterday. Over $7 applesauce. $7. Now you tell me, okay, if there's a mom in a grocery store and they got a 6, 7, 8-year-old kid whose only snack in the world that they eat, because parents know this, there's inevitably a stage where they only eat one thing, and it's an applesauce. Now, does she want to get something cheaper, like apples, which are cheaper? The whole bag of apples is $4, Morgan. Whole bag of apples is $4. Applesauce, $7 and change. The apples to make the applesauce, more apples than are needed to make the applesauce, $4. Explain that to me. I thought we were supposed to have a bunch of illegal immigrants stepping on our apples and making our applesauce. What the heck? Come on. That's what the Democrats keep telling you, right? We need them to make our applesauce. Okay. Those women were mad because they're watching their grocery bill go from $150 to $200 to $250 to $300 for a week and a half of groceries. And those are the people that voted against the Democrats. Meanwhile, the Democrats are still running around going, how could men do this to us? I don't know. Maybe because you spend 365 days out of the year demonizing everything masculine at all. The only men that the left props up are the ones who wear skirts and want to go into ladies' locker rooms and fling their dinglings around in front of little kids. Those are the only men that the Democrats seem to really care about at this point in time. The only ones. And if you're going to go out and find a manly man to connect with men out there, I don't know, maybe find a guy who doesn't make a political ad where he is working on his car, but he just takes off the air filter and then he doesn't replace it. He just puts it back. The guy unscrewed a butterfly nut and then screwed it back in, and you passed it off as manly. The guy doing the jazz hands thing. The guy who would not be intimate with his wife publicly. Very, very awkward exchange there. Very, very strange. The guy who lied about his military service. The guy who lied about his military rank upon retirement. The guy who lied about when he was in China. How many times he went to China. All of those things. You don't find those guys and then try to appeal to men. Do you know why? You know why Tim Walz and Jennings kind of made this point? By the way, there's another woman on that panel that agreed with him. You know why Tim Jennings made the point of, hey, you thought going out and getting Tim Walz is going to appeal to guys, and why that wasn't a guy who actually came up with that whole idea? Because, frankly, leftists don't understand anything about masculinity at all. Nothing about it. All they want to do is drive it into the ground, destroy it, demonize it, and eliminate it. That's all they want to do with it. Until, of course, those liberal women finally accept that blind date that their friends or family set up with a conservative guy. For the first time, they're actually shown what a man is. And then, animalistic instinct takes over, according to the massive TikTok trend that has been going on for nearly a year. More coming up. You're tuned in to The Burning Truth. Now, speaking of masculinity, let's talk about the 420 pounds of chewed bubblegum, Rob Reiner. So Rob Reiner is about. All right, here's the thing. Like, if there's a definition of beta male that you could look up in a dictionary, there's a good chance it's going to have Rob Reiner's fat, rumpy face next to it. So Rob Reiner, Trump derangement syndrome, but this guy, there are people who just get passionate about an issue and maybe a news story that comes up, and then there's people that are just feral and stupid. Rob Reiner's one of those people. Robert De Niro is one of those people. They did too much drugs or something. Their brain no longer functions properly. The synapses aren't firing properly, and they can't connect thoughts together. So what they do is they angrily just post online because they have nothing better to do with their time. Trump at least makes it funny. They're just hateful and stupid. So Rob Reiner, along with many other celebrities. Oh, by the way, another man left the country too. Ellen DeGeneres has left the country. Unfortunately, Ellen DeGeneres took Portia de Rossi with her. Portia de Rossi, I still don't get it, but love is love. Portia was always very attractive. Ellen always wasn't. So, although I've always heard that Portia de Rossi was very, very mean. So now it makes sense. They could be mean together, I guess. So they're going to the UK. Am I out of line by saying that having the Markle and Prince Harry as the trade for those two is actually an upgrade? Although they're buying their emergency home too out of country, which is all right. It's adorable. Whatever. So anyway, Rob Reiner decided to hop on to X, as many celebrities have done. I have made the decision, to take the next few days to check into a facility for peace and relaxation. Because of the election? Really? No phones, social media, no trolls. You're the troll. You're literally the troll. Like, nobody trolls you, you troll other people, and then people respond to your trolling, and then you cry. Just calmness to heal my pain, he says. LeBron James did the same thing. Super masculine, guys. Super masculine. Don't trust anybody whose toes look like that, by the way. The other thing that I find pretty interesting about this is that, all of these leftists, they're all going over to these other social networks like Big Sky and all of that other stuff. And Rob Reiner is one of those who did. And you know what Rob Reiner did? Rob Reiner yesterday accepted the results of the election. He accepted the results of the election. And he has been dogpiled by leftists on the brand new social media website, Big Sky, because he dared to accept the results of the election. And now he's going to go cry, and I'm sure not at all do any drugs, in order to go ahead and heal. Yeah, that's real masculine, folks. But that's what you get when you get somebody who's really enthusiastic about Tim Walz. You got more coming up. You're tuned in to The Burning Truth.
The Burning Truth with Casey Hendrickson.
Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to The Burning Truth. I am your host, Casey Hendrickson. Once again, want to thank R&B Car Company, locations in South Bend, Warsaw, and Fort Wayne. Go to rbcarcompany.com. All right. I'm just going to get it over with. I'm sad, okay? I don't know why the Matt Gaetz thing happened, but I'm very sad about it because Matt Gaetz being the Attorney General would make me an extremely happy person. I think I described it earlier as, leaving the house with Tweety birds and rainbows and cotton marshmallow fluff everywhere. Like, that would be my existence if Matt Gaetz were the Attorney General. Now, he says that he's being a distraction, so he's withdrawn his name for contention. I don't know what that means for him. I don't know if he's going to take a different position. I don't know if he's going to do anything else. Now, some people are saying this means the deep state won. I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know. So just for the record, because I know there's going to be people who probably just tuned in who never tune in or like, I want to hear what he says about Matt Gaetz, who are probably maybe Democrats or whatever. You should probably know this. The accusations against him are garbage. And they were investigated by the FBI and the Department of Justice for 2 years, and they dropped the case because, again, it was garbage. The only reason it got picked up a year after the case was dropped by the Ethics Committee is because Matt Gaetz was raising hell in Congress and removing bad politicians from leadership positions, and they didn't like that. So the Swamp didn't like Matt Gaetz doing it. The Swamp decided that they were going to go ahead and go after him. When Matt Gaetz was named as the Attorney General nominee, it was collectively Democrats and Republicans in the Swamp who got together and said, listen, we have got to oppose this guy at every turn. Now, we don't know exactly what the strategy here is. Matt Gaetz has already resigned from Congress. I don't know if he can go back. I don't know if there's a timeline on that. Just because he issued the resignation doesn't necessarily mean that it has to go through. I don't know. All right. So we're still just kind of figuring this all out together. But there's also the possibility that he's going to take a different role. And maybe that could be there was a meeting with J.D. Vance. We know that happened. And J.D. is like, listen, here's the deal. We think we could use you over here. And it's going to get less attention than this. So if we put you over here, you're going to be okay with that. And I don't know. I'm purely speculating, guys. Have absolutely no idea. But Sonny Hostin from The View, and yes, we'll get to The View today because, boy, they've had a terrible week. The View, Sonny Hostin, imbecile, went out there, made some pretty serious accusations against Matt Gaetz. And she made those accusations from social media posts, not from any legal filings. Keep in mind, the Ethics Committee has not released the file on this. They haven't released the file. So anything that anybody says about the case is going to be coming from speculation, unless, of course, they refer back to the DOJ's investigation, which was dropped after the main guy who accused Matt Gaetz of doing this has a history of accusing people of this exact same thing falsely, and I believe is in prison right now, serving a sentence as a result of this type of stuff, and has previously admitted to making up these accusations against his political rivals. So this is somebody who is well known. Now, the guy's a Democrat, and other Democrats say that he is one of the most corrupt people in the entire state of Florida. That's not exactly a credible source. And if the FBI, who Matt Gaetz was throat punching and kicking in the groin every single day for the past several years, couldn't find a single speck of evidence to charge Matt Gaetz with a crime, and they dropped the case, there's a good chance he didn't do anything. Because if the FBI could come up with any flake of anything to charge Matt Gaetz with anything, then they certainly would have, because he was kicking the snot out of the director of the FBI on a daily basis. So if he was guilty of anything, they would have charged him. But after 2 years of investigating, nada. Nothing. Previous accusations against Matt Gaetz, he and his family actually worked with the FBI undercover to expose an extortion attempt, which made similar accusations. Something that he publicly had to acknowledge, and the news media called him a liar. And then, of course, we ended up finding out that, nope, it was actually true. The person who was trying to extort him was arrested and charged and convicted. So now this all comes up again purely because of the Attorney General nomination. So Sonny Hostin spreads these lies, and immediately after that, within 3 minutes, her production staff has her reading an apology and well, really not an apology, but let's just say a clarification about how everything she said in the previous segment was nonsense. So Matt Gaetz is out there saying that, okay, I'm a distraction, so I'm just going to go ahead and bow out. I don't know if that's the real reason that this went down. Not exactly sure, but I do find it interesting. I have to assume that there is some other plan for Matt Gaetz somewhere. I don't know, but I'm just guessing. This does open up Matt Gaetz as a possibility for governor of Florida. Byron Donalds is out there as well. I think that Byron would probably be a better governor, though I think both of them could probably do a fine job after DeSantis is termed out. But we'll ultimately just have to kind of hang on and see what happens. So, yes, I'm sad. Do I think that there's plenty of other people for Attorney General out there that would work? Yeah, of course. I mean, but Matt Gaetz just would have been the funniest one, and I would have enjoyed every single speck of it. Did see that Dan Bongino recommended Mark Levin. Mark Levin would make a great Attorney General. And it would also be doubly funny for those of us who know when people get just as angry at Mark Levin being nominated for Attorney General as Matt Gaetz being nominated for Attorney General, because Mark Levin hates Matt Gaetz. Mark Levin's wrong about that, but Mark Levin hates Matt Gaetz. So it really doesn't matter who you pick. I mean, Donald Trump could pick a Democrat and not even just a moderate Democrat like Tulsi Gabbard, but like a really left-wing Democrat like RFK Jr., and they would absolutely lose it because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who he picks. He could keep Merrick Garland as the attorney general, and Democrats would have a hissy fit about it because Donald Trump picked them. Now, he won't, but yes, that's exactly what would happen. There's no way anybody he nominates is going to be well received. Now, as I've told you before, there's always a format here. When you're dealing with a Republican politician, they will always be accused of certain things. They will always be sexist, homophobic, transphobic. They will have cheated on their taxes, and there will be some sexual impropriety in their background. Without fail, that is the formula. Doesn't matter who it is. Every single prominent Republican on a national stage will be accused of that with a major appointment or an election. Every single time. Matt Gaetz, no different. Ted Cruz, no different. Marco Rubio, no different. Mitt Romney, no different. Obviously, Donald Trump. George W. Bush, no different. Bob Dole, no different. John McCain, no different. Go through your history, folks. They've all been accused of the same thing. Oh, yeah, racism. Got to throw the racism thing in there. Sorry. Didn't mean to leave all of the oppressed minorities out of the victim group. So it is just a formula that they use. And unfortunately, there is about 30 to 40% of the country that are dumb enough to buy into it every single time, especially when there was a 2-year investigation that concluded there was no evidence of wrongdoing against Matt Gaetz, and the DOJ dropped the case. But there's still people out there doing it. So I don't know. Something about this doesn't feel like it's just I'm a distraction, I'm stepping away. Something about this feels like he has a different mission. Because I don't think that Donald Trump cares that Matt Gaetz is a, air quote, distraction. I don't think that Matt Gaetz cares that he's a distraction. I don't think that Matt Gaetz's family cares that he's a distraction. I don't think anybody cares that he's a distraction. I really don't. Nor do I think they actually believe that he's a distraction. So something is telling me that there's something else going on here, and he's being moved into a different type of a position. I don't know what that is. I don't even know if that's accurate. It's just a gut feeling that I have. Does anybody out there honestly think that Matt Gaetz would care that this story that's been out there for years is really going to bother him? Do you think that Donald Trump and all of the people on his transition team cared about any of this, knowing that this was out there, knowing that it was going to come up, knowing that swampy Republicans are going to side with Democrats and make this a very, very big deal? I don't think that that's what's going on. So whatever else it is, I'm not sure. But I do think that we probably need to pay attention to the Matt Gaetz story, because I think there's much more to it than we have been told at this point in time. But I don't think it's just a distraction and him stepping away for the good of the transition. I don't think that's real. So I think that they're probably pushing him and moving him into a different position, or he was offered a different position. I don't know. Maybe not even in Trump's administration. Could be somewhere else. Not exactly sure. Got more coming up. You're tuned in to The Burning Truth. Wouldn't it be funny if Matt Gaetz took over Project 2025? And then Trump's like, Project 2025 is amazing. I would laugh so hard. Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to The Burning Truth. You can watch the live stream on Rumble. Go to rumble.com/Casey, the host. We've got the thumbnail on the live stream today is Superman is lame as hell. And he is. He always has been. But Superman is really, really lame. So we'll get to that a little bit later on in the program. I'm not going to do that right now. I think I'm going to continue with my manliness, masculinity theme for the hour. So Chick-fil-A. Remember when they told you that the hospital workers were the real heroes? Remember that? Including hospitals that didn't take any COVID patients and were just sitting there empty because nobody was allowed to go to the hospital and get treated for the things that were killing them. Remember that? They had time to do choreographed TikTok dance videos that took them probably hours to choreograph, film, set up, and then you uploaded a 30-second stupid clip. Remember that stuff? Well, a Minnesota hospital has praised some courageous workers. Now, what did these courageous hospital workers do? Did they overcome COVID and they're just being recognized finally? Did they overcome what was the gay sex orgy disease that was going around, Morgan? Remember that? What was that? God, what the heck was that stupid thing that was floating around here not that long ago? They're trying to make. I'm only asking you because you do the news. Okay?
Why would I
because
just the way you
it was the
that.
other thing that they were just promoting not that long ago. Gosh, what the heck was it? It was going to be the next COVID. And it turns out...
Monkeypox.
Huh?
Was it monkeypox?
It might have been monkeypox.
Because that's sexually transmitted.
Yes.
And it was minority homosexual.
We ended up finding out.
Majority.
Yeah, we ended up finding out that monkeypox was not like a risk, that only these gay guys who went to this week-long orgy in Sweden ended up getting it. But they were trying to say, everybody's going to get monkeypox. It turns out it was just the gay dudes who went there and, did stuff. So they were the only ones who had it. So, no, these Minnesota hospital workers, that derailed everything. These Minnesota hospital workers did not survive an onslaught of monkeypox because of extracurricular activities in the food court. No, they were courageous, and the hospital honored and praised them publicly for their courageous actions in crying about Chick-fil-A being in the hospital. True story. A hospital in Duluth, Minnesota, has apologized to their employees for serving them free Chick-fil-A and called the complaining employees, quote, courageous, because they're the real heroes, for speaking out against the chicken sandwiches. I wish I was joking, Robbie Starbuck writes. Sadly, I'm not. And, yeah. So Minnesota Hospital issued a profuse apology to staff after failing to abide by its values of respect and justice by giving out free Chick-fil-A. Essentia Health in Duluth wrote to staff last Tuesday after staff clucked, there's an L there, okay? Clucked. So I know what you're thinking, and you're not wrong, but it's an L, C-L-U-C-K. Clucked about the free sandwiches available in the St. Mary's Medical Center's atrium earlier that day. Quote, we have received feedback from some colleagues who are concerned or offended by this occurrence, and we value colleagues feeling comfortable expressing their reservations. Hey, Morgan. Morgan. What do you think the gender is of the person who wrote that? She won't say it, but it's a whammon. Tammy Kritzer. Of course it's a whammon. Of course it is. Because again, they've killed off masculinity. Senior Vice President for Regional Operations at Essentia Health, which is a stupid name, by the way, wrote that in an email to medical staff. Yeah. I don't, folks. You realize that Chick-fil-A stopped doing the whole religious thing like years ago. They've got a DEI guy there that's been there for a long time. Black dude, by the way, promoting critical race theory and DEI, all of that stuff over at Chick-fil-A. So don't liberals usually complain about rich corporations not doing enough for the common person? They always talk about like redistribution of wealth. Like we want to take money and wealth and assets from this person and give it to those who need it. Shouldn't we take wealth away from wealthy corporations and give it to those in our society who are truly deserving, like hospital workers and nurses, maybe even some teachers? And then when that happens, what do? Well, they complain about it. I'm surprised they didn't choreograph a TikTok video in order to get their point across, but maybe they actually had patience now that COVID and monkeypox is over. Although it is Minnesota, so monkeypox is a definite threat in the land of Tim Walz. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can watch the live stream on Rumble. Go to rumble.com/Casey the host. We've got some solar story updates in some of you counties out there. We're going to talk about Marshall County next. We're going to bring in one of the local politicians in Marshall County, break down exactly what's happening. All of that is coming up. You're listening to The Burning Truth.
Podcasts by Federated Media.